It's That's Lit with me, Shazzy D, and I've got another great episode for you today. Joining me on the show is actor, filmmaker, and founder of PM Collab Operations, or PMCO, Pacharo Mzembe. Pacharo, welcome to the show.
Hey, 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 great to be here. Thank you very much.
Oh, I am so excited because we have a lot of things to talk about today, but I want to start with your acting career. You,
Okay.
yeah, you've been in so many great theater productions, movies, and TV shows. What got you interested in acting?
Truth be told, I used the drama class in grade 11 and 12 just to stretch before I played rugby because I was at a sporting school. So what got me interested was just making people laugh. So the teacher said, get on up and learn a little bit of drama. Then all of a sudden I started to make people cry and I understood the power of acting and storytelling. She said, hey, audition for all the acting schools around Australia. So I auditioned for NIDA, QUT, WAPA, all of them. And lo and behold, I got in. I didn't really fully know and grasp the impact I could have with storytelling until I was doing tap, ballet, Shakespeare, all that in first year, second year, and third year at drama school. So, what initially got me in was to entertain and make people laugh, but what made me stay was the full impact of what acting could do.
Incredible. So, I want to talk now just about one of your most recent films, The Bluff, which you star in alongside your brother, if I have that correctly.
That's correct.
Yes. Okay. So there's this scene in the movie where Priyanka Chopra-Jonas speaks in, I believe it's Chewa. Am I saying that right?
That's correct as well. Yeah, Chewa.
Which is your language.
That's correct, Jay. In Malawi, there's Chewa, Chitumbuka. Yeah, that's our home language.
Was that planned in the script? How did that happen?
Look, Frankie Flowers and Joe Ballerini, they're the two writers of The Bluff. They were very considerate, and before the film happened, they brought us in, and throughout the development process, they said, "This is what we want to do in the film. We want to have natural tongues as well in this." And so they said, "What is your natural tongue?" My older brother speaks it a lot better than me, so throughout the fight choreo and the rehearsals, we were also layering on top some Chewa. So it's the visionary. Frankie Flowers is the director. It was his vision and his inclusion and representation. So it's been beautiful. It's been amazing. A lot of people back home feel seen and represented, which is pretty cool. And yeah, even my own mum, she just giggles and laughs when she looks at the screen and sees her sons speaking in Chewa alongside some big stars there in Hollywood.
Incredible. And that just speaks to, making a film and really being inclusive. So it's all also such a great opportunity to have you in the film as it is, but then to really have that, extra, forward thinking to be like, okay, what else can we add? What else can we do to kind of really bring, these characters to life?
Yeah, look, the first meeting I had with Frankie Flowers, the director, you could see that from a mile away. He's from the Cayman Islands, and the films and projects that he does get involved in and that he has completed, that is always at the forefront. Well, I believe it is because, yeah, I'm a big fan of Bob Marley, the biopic, also Shooters, which was the LeBron James story. So yeah, he brought that to this, absolutely.
You're also, working behind the camera as a producer now, first time director. Can you tell us about the film Prizefighter?
Prize Fighter, the film, it's adapted of Future D Fidel's work. Future D Fidel is a Congolese background writer. I always still say African Australian. He's lived here for a good portion of his life. He wrote a beautiful play called Prize Fighter. This play impacted my life in such a way, I think, for over 15, I'll say 12 years, because I was part of development as well. And yeah, we had three theatre reprisals, took it around Australia. It's done Brisbane Fest, Sydney Fest, Darwin Fest, Melbourne Fest. And then after that, I turned to him, I said, "Hey man, let's get this up there on the big screen." So this is gonna be me. Yeah, I've worked a lot in front of the camera. Now I'm understanding being on the other side of the camera, but I've been in great school and company because for the majority of my career, I've been asking a lot of questions with producers, DPs and the likes, and I have a lot of people within the industry who are supporting me. So I'm excited. I'm pumped to finally bring this story, yeah, to the screen.
Exciting. So, if I have this correctly, were you in the theater production?
Yes, in the theater production, I played opposite my older brother Gideon, Mikey Brown Ash, Marcus Johnson. There was also a string of people with each different reprisal. But
Really?
yes, yeah, the core original cast there was, yeah, Mikey Brown Ash, myself, and my older brother Gideon made it through all of them, and there will be a place for them in the feature film as well. But yes, it was a theater production first.
Amazing. And so you also had trained to actually learn how to box. Is that right?
That's correct.
You did an actual match?
Yeah, so for the theater show, look, I've loved boxing my whole life. For the theater show, there's only some level of realness we could have because I'm speaking monologues and whatnot. So my brother had to go punch at my shoulders, in and around my head. Nigel Poulton, who was the fight choreographer, made sure I was well looked after in that production. But for the film production, I took a year out of my life. I started to train. I went to corporate boxing gym in Lutwyche here, up here in Queensland. A good man by the name of Richie, he took me underneath his wing. He got me prepared and he said, yeah, you will be jumping into the ring. And so I fought under Ace Boxing Group's fight night on a professional fight card. And I got myself a technical knockout in the second round. I won, so I wasn't on the receiving end of it. It was the most exhilarating, scary thing. Will I ever do it again? I highly doubt it because I respect these fighters. I'm an actor, but I've been immersed in that world and I think I got their respect.
Incredible. Like that's dedication. And we're excited actually to see how that translates in the film.
Yes.
Any more you can tell us about when we could hopefully potentially expect to see it?
Yeah, a lot of beautiful development work has already happened on Prize Fighter, the film. I would love to be filming at the end of this year or early next year, but there's these big movements that need to, sort themselves out. The film industry at the moment is the way it is. It's currently hard to get there in the cinema. Everything's going to streaming. I really want this film to be in cinemas so a lot of people can see it as intended. But yeah, so that's probably as much as I can say. Everything is tracking really, really well. But yeah, keep your eyes peeled. Follow Prize at Prize Fighter the film on Instagram.
So, can we talk a little bit more about PMCO? So, this is the organization you created. Tell us what it
Yep.
is and what it aims to achieve.
Well, PMCO for me is the amalgamation of everything that I've gone through within my life. It's a creative-led project house, so it's split up into three pillars: storytelling, collaboration, and fearless mentorship. With storytelling, it develops intellectual property across film, TV, theater, literature, and the creative retail space. And a lot of people always ask, what is the creative retail space, Patch? And I just say anything to do with merchandising, hats, teas, and all the likes. And then in that middle sector, like I said, with collaboration, it's creative services. So I do workshops. I pride myself with these workshops, usually youth orientated. And the workshops also center around encouraging people to be unafraid. I also do keynote speaking. And then the last facet of Fearless Mentorship, that is a platform. We're actually going to release it in a week and a half. It's called My PMCO. So it's a place for artists, creatives, and dreamers where I can bestow all these lessons that I've learned along the way for them and they can take it on board. So PMCO is the amalgamation of all those three things, all my passions. And so the project that you mentioned before, Prize Fighter, that is in the storytelling pillar. And I also have other projects as well, like Osa Opa, which is a docu-series and a short film that's coming out called Chasing Green and Gold with my little sister. But yeah, in a nutshell, that is what PMCO. It's a creative-led project house, and I'm able to collaborate with a lot of interesting artists out there as well.
Since you mentioned your sister, I'm just going to jump right in and just ask about you, your brother, your sister. Were you always interested in creating film or, film projects?
Yeah, look, Gideon, my oldest brother, well, my only brother, but yeah, Gideon, the eldest out of the Mzembes, he's been the creative one. I will say the most creative is my little sister, but Gideon was he was the beginning. I idolized him when he played sport. I played sport. He joined a thing called the Australian Acting Academy, so I joined that as well. My little sister also went through the Australian Acting Academy. So yeah, we've always been creative. We spent many a times. I'm not sure if this was like you and your household, but if you didn't have a TV growing up, you spent a lot of time telling stories. And I believe as Africans, we tell many stories. So realistically, I think my mum and father are the ones who started this off in it. But yeah, we've always been creative, sporty and creative.
Wonderful. That is excellent. And I mean, I really relate. I just as my own siblings as well, they're really very creative. And I think we were slightly different. Like my brother more so on the editing side, my sister more so on the acting slash directing side, and then I was just I'm a journalist. So it's like we had three completely different kind of areas but of the arts, but it all ended up coming together and sometimes we'd help each other in like different projects or like give each other tips and be like, okay, maybe do it like this. And so it's really, really great to see that, you and your siblings also have a really great kind of like working relationships as well as, of course, family.
Yes, that we do. Well, Chasing Green and Gold stars my little sister. It's co-written by me and her, and it also features my older brother. So, yeah, this is the thing that we want to continue on as we move on deeper into our careers.
Wonderful. And now just hopping back to PMCO, which something that I was super excited to talk to you about in regards to this was how you talk a lot about IP, intellectual property, and how important that is and how important it is to protect it. So, first of all, for those who may not know about intellectual property, can you just kind of give a bit of a quick explanation of what that is?
Okay, intellectual property. Now, I'm no lawyer, so for any lawyers out there, they can be like, hey, 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 they can send a message into you, or they can reach me at Pacharo Mzembe on Instagram, and they can say, correct me. Look, intellectual property, or I'll just reference it as IP from this point on. IP is incredibly important. I spent the majority of my life telling other people's stories, which is what you do as an actor. You pick up a script, you get up on stage there and you perform it. That script is someone's IP. A beautiful writer has created that imaginative world, has brought that story to life. But there comes a point where you're going to have to start telling your stories, or if you want to tell your stories. And that's where I was at. So I went in on a deep dive to understand what intellectual property was. And we live in a world at the moment where intellectual property isn't just what you see. Intellectual property can be what you hear, an experience that you engage with. And I encourage creatives and artists to really understand and embrace IP because when it does get tough and you can't compete or you miss out on that audition or you don't get cast in that role, if you have your own story, if you have your own intellectual property, someone else may come, an investor or a third party shareholder might be able to bring that to life. So I feel you should be simultaneously doing that as you're living out your career as an artist. All artists should be investing in their own intellectual property.
Yeah, I totally agree. And that's, I feel like with social media, I feel like the potential to have your ideas shown if you go on something, say TikTok. I'm not an expert, right? I'm not an expert on who
Me
owns
neither.
content at the end of the day. But I also think you could still prove something is yours if you're the first one to create it and put it up, on some sort of social media site and then have that as your thing. That's your kind of idea. And then if it gets, lots of views or lots of people engaging with it, you can expand it from there. I just think of, say, Issa Rae. I don't know if you watched something like it was a show she created on YouTube, Awkward Black Girl, and just how
Yeah.
a lot of her projects kind of expanded from that show that she made. So I just think the opportunities are like endless.
The opportunities are endless, and I got some creative nights going to happen in Brisbane, and I got to figure out the format, how to do it online. Because look, when you share your ideas online and on Instagram and social media, sometimes someone may pick up on that idea and use it, and they're allowed to. IP world is it's very tangly, as those lawyers out there will clearly point out. So these nights are for me to try to get across to people that gap in between where the art and commerce meet. So when individuals understand, okay, I got an idea, I'm going to write it down. How do I package it? And then how do I approach the right people in order to get that idea, ideation, all the way to completion and a production? And then that becomes a tangible IP that you can make ROIs on revenue on. And I feel that's what's missed. And so Issa and all that, they have big teams. But there's artists out there who can package it in a specific way and just use Stripe in order to get their returns.
I like that you talk a lot about storytelling also, that you're really a big fan of it. That's something that you kind of champion with your organization. Can you talk about the value of storytelling for you?
Storytelling is absolutely everything. Uh, I was a storyteller on the football pitch, so rugby was my sport when I went to Ipswich Boys Grammar, and basketball actually, which ended up being the key one. Storytelling is everything. What happens in the first quarter, second quarter, third quarter, fourth quarter? Are you bluffing when you're in front of someone? Are you better than you are? All that. Uh, that's in the performative realm. But your own story, and this is the key thing that I try to get across to individuals, is that most times, more times than not, everyone looks to the movies or externally and goes, "Oh, I don't have an interesting story compared to Jennifer Lopez or Brad Pitt or whatever." Now, those celebrities were just randomly picked, just to be clear. Um, but they don't embrace their story. How to tell your story is a very incredibly key thing. And if you can tell your story, it can take you absolutely anywhere. It can land you that job. It can give you that opportunity. And so for me, when I say story is everything, it is absolutely everything. From the moment you introduce yourself to an individual, they're listening to understand your story. So I started with the whole performative element of it. Yeah, you can write a story that goes up on screen, but what is the story that you tell yourself? What is the story that you tell others when you're engaging with them? So storytelling is everything.
And can you talk about maybe some advice that you could share for someone, first off, if they want to go into the acting side of things, if they want to act?
Okay. Look, I know from experience, when I went to audition to get into some of these drama schools, I just mimicked Denzel Washington and yeah, Philadelphia closing speech, him and Tom Hanks. And I thought acting was just reciting lines and getting up there and pretending to be. And so I pretended to be Denzel. But once I did 3 years of NIDA, this is the advice that I would, and again, it doesn't matter where you go to, so it's drama school. Once I did 3 years of drama school, this is the advice I'd give to anybody. Understand why you want to be a storyteller and the need for you to do it. It is an incredibly difficult industry where you're going to get rejected a lot. I've been rejected. The amount of no's that I've received on film auditions, theatrical auditions, or a project about to happen then gets imploded, it's tough. Rejection is a part of it. So if you want to go down that acting realm, why? Why do you want to be a storyteller? Ask yourself that. Now, if you don't have the answer, that's fine. Get in there, you'll figure it out, and you'll figure out whether it is for you or not. But always bring it down to your core center of why you're doing what you're doing, because it's tough work. And so for me, I love to make people laugh, entertain, cry, share insights, and bring people into different worlds. That's what I'm looking forward to with Prize Fighter. Bring people into the world of an ex-child soldier turned professional boxer, living in Australia, fighting for this big opportunity. Where in the world can, let's say, a middle-aged Australian individual understand where that psyche is? So I get excited about that. So, yeah, I know this is long-winded, but if you want to come into the acting realm, why? Why do you want to be a storyteller?
And what we just talked on just a little bit before about IP, can you just also give, some advice? I know, like you said, you're not a lawyer, which is fair enough, but also, I guess, in terms of how you can start thinking about it now, maybe while you're in that creative space.
Yeah, look, you don't necessarily have to be a writer. If you got a great idea and you want to team up with some individuals and get something brought to life, you could be writing a mini series based upon your journal entries of the past, or you could be writing a theater play based upon conversations that I had with my mother, or whatever it is. And then you bring together a team, a writer or a producer, and you start writing it and making it tangible, and then have agreements with each other where you intended to go and what you want to happen with it. And then you're on your way. Like this team that I'm putting together is I feel blessed. Every individual that gets attached, you see it coming more and more to life. But it all started with Future D Fidel, where I was just like, hey, this needs to be a film.
Yeah. And so with that play, actually, is it based on a true story?
It's
Is
yes, it's semi-biographical. Future D Fidel is from the Congo. He got to witness and also hear stories from individuals who had the negative effects of what happens in the Congo. And for a lot of people who may not know, the Congo is a beautiful place, but it also has, and I love telling this story, all the elements, all the resources on the elemental chart, the scientific elemental chart. And so as a result, it has been subject to some of the most corrupt elements of extracting those resources, and it's been destabilized for a long time. And so my man Future, yeah, he's experienced that, and he was a refugee for I think it was 7+ years. I'll get that correct, before he came here to Australia. So yes, Prize Fighter is from his experiences. There's some not so pretty things in the play, but also experiences from family members and friends who were child soldiers who did engage in that. And I'll be very clear, Future D Fidel himself, he was not a child soldier.
I guess stories from migrants, refugees, people who have gone through things or who are telling stories, may not be their own personal experience, but they know of people. So I just think, shout out to you, shout out to him, Future, and all the people who really do the work of making stories that they can share for us to, watch and consume and keep the story of, I guess, our people alive. And I just think it's just really important and really great to share.
I think you couldn't have said that any more beautifully. And where I also have pride in it is that Prize Fighter is an Australian story. At the heart of it is my character, but then there's this beautiful Australian woman who took my character in, and then it's based in Australia with flashbacks that go back to the Congo. But it is a very Australian story, but it touches on all those elements that you just talked about the refugee life here in Australia and some of the struggles that are unseen. And that's what I want to showcase here as well. But it is an exciting ride because there's a lot of boxing. Otherwise, I wouldn't have gotten in to the ring and risked my life, actually, because I did get in my first fight in the lead up. I almost got knocked out. I had a standing 8 count, is when you get hit and you have a flash knockout, and the referee counts to 8. And my camp was like, hey, I think you should throw the towel in. But I trained for an extra 2 months, and then I got the win on the other side of that. So yeah, alongside all the beautiful boxing, there's the heartfelt and the real stories that's Prizefighter holds.
Thank you so much, Pacharo. You have shared so much valuable information, and I really, really, really appreciate you coming on the show today.
No, all good in the hood. Thank you very much for having me.
And thank you for tuning in to another episode of That's Lit with Shazzy D. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure you give it a like, share it with a friend, subscribe to my channel, and leave me a comment. And make sure you go check out The Bluff, go check out Prize Fighter when it eventually comes out. Thanks again, and I will catch you in the next episode.